Warriors NRL Fanatics here, back today with a video, and this is a big news article on New Zealand Herald, and it's regards to the Warriors bid to play the 2022 NRL season at home. Majority of home games is what the club is aiming to do. Now it says here on the New Zealand Herald website, New Zealand Warriors Chief Executive Cameron George plans to buy home games of NRL opponents and play them around the country, so not just Auckland but around New Zealand. It says here that I've already started discussing with certain NRL clubs whether they would consider selling us their home games to come to New Zealand next year. I'm trying to build a portfolio of games to play in New Zealand next year and get as many as we can to play over there. For example, instead of playing the likes of the Raiders in Canberra, I'll buy that game off them and bring them to Wellington or Christchurch. So, example is the Warriors, if they play the likes of Manly and they want to maybe possibly move it to play in the likes of Hamilton, that'd be good. And yeah, I think this is a great idea, in my opinion. Great decision if we do get some majority of games in New Zealand next year, because I think from what I in my view, they deserve to have more games in New Zealand next year. Because this year is again going to be disrupted. We won't be in New Zealand for a while until June the 21st, apparently. So, like last year, we never played a game at Mount Smart last year, and we haven't played a game in New Zealand since 2019. So, to take some games out of Auckland and play it around the country in New Zealand would be good. It would be great to develop the game in New Zealand, rugby league as a whole in New Zealand, and not just to play Warriors games at Mount Smart, but to play them around the country. So, for me, to see this hopefully happen next year, I'd love to see it happen. I'd hope the NRL allows it to happen. I hope the likes of the other NRL clubs, accept this offer of coming to New Zealand and playing us, because I think it'd be great. It'd be great for the Warriors, it'd be great for the NRL as a whole. And yeah, even though I know it's going to be a big advantage if those teams have to come over to New Zealand and play the Warriors, but you look at the likes of what the Warriors have had to go through. They've always had to come to Australia and play the Australian teams here, and I think we deserve a lot of more games in New Zealand. I know this might, some people might say that that's a bit questionable to say that, but for me, I love to see the Warriors play more games in New Zealand next year. What we've done in 2020, where we had to play the whole season in Australia. What the sacrifice we had to bring to the NRL to, keep the competition going and do that sort of thing, like, being away from family and friends. And I know they're professional athletes and all that, but they're still away from their family, they're still away from their friends, and it's still a tough position to be in. But, for me, I love to see the Warriors play these games in New Zealand next year, whether it's 20 games, 16 games. For me, it doesn't really matter. I just would love to see more home games in New Zealand next year. And, hopefully there's no more COVID next year either, too, to make sure that situation can happen. So, what Cameron George says here, that we played 10 home games next year, plus the NRL Magic round in Brisbane. I love to buy as many away games from Australian-based clubs and play a minimum 16 NRL games here. We'd love up to 20 games. That gives the game a really good launch pad. It's about relaunching the game in New Zealand, not just the Warriors. So, what Cameron George said is what I've been saying. It's to help the New Zealand Rugby League as a whole and build that foundation in New Zealand to grow the game, and to have the likes of Melbourne Storm and Canberra Raiders and those teams come over to New Zealand and play the Warriors. That'd be great. All those big name teams like the Sydney Roosters, all those teams like Manly and and that. So, you know, you look at what the Warriors did. They took some games to Christchurch. They played the likes of Manly and that in New Zealand. So for me, it just makes sense to play more games in New Zealand in the 2022 NRL season. And then Cameron George says here that the club is down about 300,000 per lost home game, and it has affected our membership base. We'll be knocking on the door of the NRL at some stage. It's already impacted our financial position in the short, mid, and long term. So that's a bit of the article, what it says, and what they're bidding is apparently 2.4 million to play these games in New Zealand in the 2022 NRL season, which I hope that money is gonna give the NRL I hope that we can play some games in New Zealand in the 2022 NRL season. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the recent news of the New Zealand Warriors bid to play the 2022 NRL season at home. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Give the video a like. That would be much appreciated. The channel is going well. It's at 308 subscribers at the moment. So if you aren't already subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. And also don't forget to share your thoughts down in the comment section below. What is your thoughts on this news in regards to the New Zealand Warriors bid to play the 2022 NRL season at home? Do you like the decision? Do you agree with it? Would you like to see the Warriors play majority of their games at home in the 2022 NRL season? And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next